Om Shri Sai. A very warm welcome to everyone present with us today. We will begin the session with three Oms. Saram, dear sisters and brothers. Welcome to the Cutting the Ties That Bind monthly meetup for January month. In the late 1950s, Mrs. Crystal and a close friend embarked on an experiment to make regular contact with an inner source of wisdom, which they eventually called the high C, for higher consciousness. Since then, by consulting the high C, a visualization method involving the use of symbols evolved. These techniques were used to help those who wish to release from attachment to or reliance on any outer security or control, thereby freeing the individual to seek help and guidance from the high sea rather than from these outer resources. And today we will revisit some of the practices. So we hope you are ready and excited for today's session. Before we begin, here's a small reminder to sit in a comfortable position and reserve all your questions until the Q&A segment, or if required, we can take that in between. With that, let's begin the class as I invite your wonderful course facilitator, Dr. Shrikant Sola.
Welcome, everyone. So nice to see all of you again online. And let's go ahead and start, as we always do, by connecting to the high C through the maypole. So let's all begin. Imagine in your inner scene that you're seated in a golden circle. The golden circle is the diameter as if you took both of your arms, fingertips extended. It's that wide. And it's on the ground, wherever you're sitting, or wherever you were to, if you were to stand up, it would be on that surface, on the ground. Okay. Now, this golden circle represents your own inner space. Before you, visualize a large maple. Doesn't matter how big, how small, but imagine a maple with a large, beautiful ball or sphere at the top, a golden sphere. And hanging down from that maple are many different colored ribbons, different textures, different ribbons. And in your inner scene, go up to the maple and take a ribbon. Just choose one ribbon. If you like, you can notice the color, the texture of the ribbon in your hand, and then go back to your golden circle and be seated there. See that all of us from all over the world, right from Australia all the way to the United States and Canada and every place in between, we're all connected to one maypole. And at the top of that maypole, of course, we have the high C, the higher consciousness, or the higher part of ourselves. You can see the picture here if you need help in visualizing what it might look like. We're going to take energy from the high C. And so I'd like you to imagine, think, visualize, or feel that you are taking relaxing energy, relaxing energy. Ask the high C to send this energy through the maypole, through the ribbon, directly to you, relaxing energy. Breathe in this relaxing energy. And as you breathe out, let go. Let go of all your stress. Let go of all the tensions, the trauma. Let go of all the difficulties that you've been facing from whatever it may be. Just let go. Give it all to the high C. Just let go, let go, let go. This is really important. Now let's ask the high C to send us healing energy, healing energy. You can think, visualize, feel, or imagine this healing energy coming from the high C to you And even though the energy is flowing through a small ribbon, imagine that it's coming as if from a wide open fire hose at full power. It's really very powerful and strong. And this healing energy provides everything you need physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Now, let's ask the high C for purifying and cleansing energy. Purifying and cleansing energy. You can imagine this energy if you like. You can imagine it comes to you like a shower or perhaps like a waterfall, and it cleanses you completely inside and out. It purifies you completely inside and out. Take in a few deep breaths and bring in this purifying, cleansing energy to you. The more energy, the more effort you put into this, the more powerful this exercise becomes. So really try to feel it, really feel that energy coming to you. Now let's ask the high C for strengthening energy, strengthening energy. Phyllis would often say that people would come to her and tell her that they feel so tired at the end of the day, as if they have no energy left. But Phyllis would say that's because they rely on their own limited ego strength instead of relying on the unlimited energy of the high C, the higher consciousness. So let's learn to rely on the strength of the high C. And so let's draw into us this strengthening energy. It gives us all the strength that we need. And finally, let's ask for that most precious gift of all, the unconditional love of the high C. This love is what we have been searching for hundreds of thousands of births, just God's unconditional love. That's all. But you don't have to earn this love. You don't have to deserve it. It is your birthright. Let's breathe in this unconditional love and let it soak every part of us, every aspect, every nook and cranny. Breathe it in and breathe out whatever is not love. The more effort, the more sincerity you put into this, the more you will benefit from this exercise. As always, we turn over the direction of this entire seminar over to the high C. You can gradually come out of the maple, stretch your arms and legs like a cat coming out of sleep. You can gently open your eyes, coming back to the present moment and time wherever you are across the world. Welcome back, everybody. And let's try to make this a bit interactive. I'd like to hear some feedback from last month's session. Last month's session was about a very simple exercise. It was whenever you have some free time, just contemplate on the self, okay? Whenever you have some free time, just contemplate on the self. We'd given some exercises to quieten the mind, right? We had given the tape rule on your right side of your body. You extended out the tape ruler, like the carpenter's tape, and then you let it go. And as the tape comes back, it makes a snapping sound. And then on your left side, for the emotions, you imagine a snake wound around a branch of a tree. And the snake is sitting in such a way that it's holding its tail in its mouth. Okay, it's not biting itself, it's just holding the tail. And that symbolizes the quietness of the emotion. So on the right side for the mind, you have your tape measure. On the left side for your emotions, you have your snake. Then we mentioned some of the ways to just be quiet using the maypole, right? Asking God to give us silence, asking God to give us the knowledge of the self. So how did we do? Can we get some comments, or can we ask some people to even share, maybe turn on their mics? Let's make it a bit interactive. Yeah, who is brave enough to say anything, or at least can you type in comments, and then Nagendra, if you can read those out. So one person said stillness. Good, good. Other comments that people experienced?
Yes, we have one comment. The point I was focusing on during the thumb meditation disappeared, and the room itself felt like it was foggy and disappearing. So it was tough to keep focusing on the wall when it was disappearing. Abhishek says, the darshan, sankalpa, and sthita energy was really good. Felt peaceful and connected. Shravanti says, we breathe in darshan energy, then sankalpa of the high sea. Fernando says, I use the monkey instead of the snake. It appears that my mind is harder to keep quiet than emotions. Haripriya says, the
That's
tape
true for
measure.
most people, Fernando. I think that's true for most people, especially for guys, especially for guys. Yeah. Haripriya said,
Haripriya says, the tape measure started working better than before.
okay. Okay, good. So let's stop there. A couple of pointers on this. You guys are still trying to analyze your experiences with your mind, and that's not going to get you anywhere. Let me just ask you, and if you can type into the chat box, please, so that I can hear your thoughts. Is it possible to understand the self through the mind? What do you think? Just there's no right or wrong answer. What do you think? Is it possible to understand the self through the mind? As self means a capital S, the Paramatma, the Parabrahman. Anyone brave enough to venture an answer? Nagendra, you want to read out some of those comments?
Yes, sir. Meanwhile, they come. We have Priyanka saying the monkey mind and the snake exercise really helps in controlling emotions and fickleness instantly. Blanca says no. Fernando says no. Shravanti says not possible. Vinita says no. Priyanka says no.
Good,
Deepti says
very
no.
good. So what happens? It's a natural tendency. We have an experience and then we try to analyze it to death. And that doesn't really get us anywhere. That's a trick of the ego, especially the spiritual ego. It wants to tell you, I had this experience. Um, I am spiritual. I believe in Advaita. I am on the path to self realization. And then what happens is, because you have maybe you read some books, maybe you listen to certain teachers or gurus speak about their experiences of the self. You develop concepts and ideas in your mind that actually have nothing to do with reality. And that's really unfortunate. Please stop this habit. Look for the direct experience of the self instead. All the other things that we talk about, like, doing this maple and doing the birds and doing the whatever the symbols we have, the hourglass and all these things, they're wonderful, but look for the self that lies behind all of these experiences. It's not something you can understand or analyze or measure or describe through the mind. It's beyond that. It's not something that the senses can understand. The senses can only show you duality. The mind can only show you duality. It's not created for non-duality. It doesn't work that way. So please stop analyzing and just go for direct experience. And once you have that experience, you'll be like, yeah, it's obvious. You know, it'll be obvious to you. Okay. All right. Now, I was looking at the audience before we started. And one of the things I've noticed about this is, you know, when we do cutting the ties that bind, what are we cutting from? We're cutting from ties. What ties? Karmic ties, things that have happened to us in the past that we have created through our own thoughts, our own words, our own deeds, and especially our beliefs and concepts. These can be good, they can be bad, they can be wonderful, they can be terrible. But all these experiences are written, like Phyllis would say, it's like a script that you have written with your own hand through all your thoughts, words, and deeds from the past. We can cut the ties from those so that we can be free. And then we learn to be free by relying entirely on the high C for whatever we need. Yeah? That's the beauty of the cutting the ties method, is that everything is done by the high C, for the high C, through the high C. And we learn to live our lives like that. But what I'm seeing is that you're not cutting ties properly. It's not that the method is not being done. It's not that. Doing a figure eight cut for 2 weeks with the person or 3 to 4 weeks with the symbol is not a big thing. It's very simple. But you're just not cutting ties. You're not cutting ties. You're not doing it. How many of you, can I see a show of hands? How many of you have already cut ties? No, that won't work. How many of you not cut ties with both of your parents? Can I just say yes? I have not cut ties with both of my parents. Let me just type in yes into the chat box, please. So as many of you know, when we start with cutting the ties, we start by cutting the ties from our parents, whether they're alive or not. You can cut the ties anytime after adolescence, after puberty, after the person starts to reach puberty, sorry. And we start with the parents because they have the greatest influence on us as we grow up. As psychologists have said, most of our personalities and most of our traits are already set by the time we're 5 years old, right? And those experiences, those early experiences, guide us throughout the rest of our life, whether they're good or bad. We grow up with certain beliefs and concepts that are handed down based on the culture and traditions that we've grown up in. All of those were determined by the karmas and the patterns that we had created for ourselves. It's not that anybody's doing anything to you, it's all self-created. So let's see, can you give me some count, Nagendra? What is the number of people who have not cut ties from their both of their parents?
Yes, there's a majority saying yes. We have just few people. Sujata, Prahlad, Sayusha, who haven't done.
Oh, so most have, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a few people who are yet to cut ties from everyone. Okay, all right, that's good. But you know, you're going to need to finish this. You're going to need to cut ties from your parents, and please do this fast. No, really, most of you are just wasting time. Honestly, most of you are just wasting your time. You're wasting your life on things that are not important. Focus on self-realization. Make that your number one goal. Use your family, your work, your other activities as tools for you to reach self-realization, and do it joyously. Okay, now let's go through a bit more. How many of you have cut ties? Let's do something simple. How many of you cut ties from a previous job? Okay, let's say you had an old job that you used to work with. How many have cut ties from your old job? Let's just see a show of hands. Yes or no, please type in. How do I know I've cut ties with my parents? Nalini, of course you cut ties. You do the figure eight and cut for 2 weeks, no? One at a time. First one parent and then the other. It's a technique that's part of the cutting the ties that bind method. You can find it in the books and especially in the workbooks. Yeah. Okay. So Nagendra, what's the feeling from there? I don't need an
Uh,
exact number, but
yeah, now majority is going towards no.
no. Yeah. See, get this simple thing. No, if you have had a prior job, you cut ties from that. That's a simple cut. If you lived in one part of the country, okay, or another part of the world, or even another house, and now you're no longer there, you cut ties with that as a symbol cut. Okay. Has anyone, can I just see a show of hands? How many of you have cut ties from either your prior place where you lived or home where you lived? Has anyone done that? So Nagendra, what's the feedback from there?
Yes, we are getting. It's Fernando says no. It's Sarvani says no. Prashanti says no.
Mm-mm.
Blanca says no.
Right. This is what I thought. This is what I was seeing. I was just looking at, you know, seeing what was being done, and it's like, my God, you guys are not practicing anything really. So please practice. No, don't come here for 1 hour and waste my time. You all please practice and do your work. This is a sacred technique. It's a wonderful technique, but you need to practice to make it worse. Nalina is asking, how does it feel after I cut ties with my parents? I don't know. Did you cut ties with your parents, Nalina? Yes or no? If you did, then you may feel nothing. You may feel that your relationship has improved after cutting ties. So if you haven't, then just do the cutting ties technique. Now Fernando and Nalina, how do you cut ties? What you do is you imagine the figure eight. Can you show the figure eight symbol, Nagendra? And let's do this quickly. So you imagine that there's a figure eight on the ground and that you're sitting or standing in one of the golden circles. There's two golden circles that are put together. We started with the golden circle, right? And so you're in your golden circle. There's another golden circle opposite to you on the ground, just touching yours without overlapping. So now you have a figure eight made by these two circles. You're in your golden circle, which represents your personal space, your sacred space. Whoever you want to cut ties with, you place in the opposite circle, you imagine them, and then you run a neon blue light, first in a clockwise direction around the circle opposite to you. And when you come back to where the two circles intersect, you go in an anti-clockwise direction around yourself, as if you're drawing a figure eight. So first clockwise around that person, and then anti-clockwise around yourself. And that's how you run the figure eight, okay? Neon blue light. Why neon blue? Because Phyllis said that the high Sia told her it represents an energy that cuts or protects you from other energies. So that's the so that's the figure eight exercise. That's called running the figure eight. So just to repeat, you're in your golden circle. There's another golden circle opposite to you. The two golden circles are touching without overlapping. You can see it here. The dot in the middle of each circle would represent one person. So you're one person in yours. Let's say you're in the bottom half of the figure eight. And the top half of the figure eight is the other person facing you. And you run this neon blue light first in a clockwise direction around the top circle. And then when you come back to your circle, it goes in an anti-clockwise direction, just making the figure eight. You do this for 2 minutes in the morning with that person, and then 2 minutes in the evening before going to bed. So the first thing you do as soon as you wake up, 2 minutes, and then just before going to bed for 2 minutes. Why at the time of waking up or sleeping? Because that's when your subconscious mind is closest to your conscious mind. All of these memories, all of these karmas, all of these ties are the level of the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind that we normally work with, but the subconscious mind. That's where our karmas are stored. That's where old memories and habits and attributes are stored as well. So do this twice daily, and plus whenever you can think of it, for 2 weeks with that other person, and then you would come to the cut. Now we're not going to do a cut in this particular workshop; it's quite lengthy. But then you would do a cut in case there's a place that you've lived in or a job that you've had. Then you can do a symbol, and that's a separate type of topic. We can discuss that as a separate thing. Someone is saying, Sanju, if our parents are not alive, yeah, you cut ties with them. It doesn't matter if one is living or not living, because the effect, the karma is still there, right? So you still cut ties with them. Another person asked, should I cut ties from your present job? Only if you want to get fired. If you're working in a present job, you work and do that job. It's only your previous jobs that you cut ties with. You don't cut ties with your spouse, okay? Because you are both together, working together to working towards realizing the high C. What you do with your spouse is you do the same figure 8, and then as we did just now, and then you visualize the ties between you and your spouse, okay? And then you give those ties to the high C, and the high C will then take those ties and hold those ties between you and your spouse in the high C's hand. So you're giving the ties to the high C for the high C to take care of. So that's what you do with your spouse or a significant other. So please, please do this. I'm seeing that, we're telling you these things, but nobody's practicing. Nobody's practicing. Few people are, congratulations, but the bulk are just wasting time. You have to practice, 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 practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So make sure you follow the techniques exactly as they're given. Don't change them. If you're not sure about the techniques, just buy the Phyllis Crystal workbook, the Cutting Ties workbook. It's wonderful, and you can do this. You can only cut ties from one person at a time. Okay, so just one is enough. Please don't try to cut ties from too many people. Just one person for 2 weeks minimum. Same way you can do only one symbol at a time for 3 weeks minimum. There are some exceptions, but generally that's the rule. Okay. Now, again, are there any more pressing questions on this? Because I see that people are not doing this. No? We're not getting this practice. Even if we are not thinking about old job or house, is it necessary to cut ties? So Phyllis would tell us only if it bothers you. Okay, only if it bothers you. Honestly, we have so many things to cut from that it's only if it bothers you should you cut ties. So if you're still thinking about, oh, I had this house, oh, I lost this job, oh, that kind of thing, then you should cut ties. But generally, when you leave a place or when you move out, you would like to cut ties. So only if it bothers you should you cut ties. Okay,
Yes.
now Meenakshi, one person says, I'm still cutting ties. I've cut ties with my mother-in-law, but still I'm having issues. How can I improve this relationship? All right, probably if I ask how many people have problems with their mother-in-law, too many people would raise their hand. So let's take a look at this and see what's happening. We don't have an audio here, so we'd have to dig a little bit deeper. Cut ties with your mother-in-law, and then every day you can still run the figure 8 with that person. It doesn't have to be your mother-in-law, it can be anybody who's bothering you. Just run the figure 8 with them on a daily basis, just for 2 minutes, not all the time, just 2 minutes is enough, please. And that will help you. Now, that will help to, what you do when you do the figure 8, it breaks the control that you have over the other person or that the other person has over you. And it's a wonderful exercise. Phyllis used to do the figure 8 with her husband, who was a lawyer and who was very, very, very controlling. And she said that the only way she could survive that marriage was by doing the figure 8 with him every day. And so if you're in that kind of difficult relationship where you can't move out, then you can do the figure 8 with them on a regular basis. Now, the thing about cutting the ties is that if you forget, like Sujata was saying, I sometimes forgot to cut ties. You don't cut ties in the night, you run the figure 8 at night. The cut is at the end, okay, of 2 weeks for a person or 3 weeks for a symbol. So the cutting ties is not happening until you finished after 2 weeks for running the figure 8 for a person, 3 weeks after a symbol. So Sujata says, I sometimes forget to cut ties in the night. Actually, what you mean is you sometimes forget to run the figure 8 at night. And then, yes, you have to restart all over again. Good luck. Please don't forget. That's why, again, there's a certain spiritual laziness that many of you have, and I'm being a bit mean today, but I'm just, I was looking at the group, I was like, oh my God, Swami, please help. People aren't practicing at all. Yeah. So you need to practice, please, and you need to be disciplined about the practice. Don't be disciplined in a militaristic or serious way. Be disciplined in a fun way, in a loving way, because this technique takes you closer and closer to God. Now, this is a good question. Krishna Kumar is asking, even with the sales target, okay, so Krishna Kumar, I'm guessing, is in sales, and he has a sales target, which of course makes sense. And it's probably causing you stress. Now, you can't cut ties with your sales target. That doesn't make sense. What you do there is you do the hourglass symbol. And the hourglass symbol is really very beautiful. Let's all do it now together. Okay. You imagine an hourglass. You know what an hourglass looks like this, right? Okay. And there's two types of hourglasses. One that is over you, like if you have a golden circle on the ground around you, that's the diameter of the hourglass, the bottom part. And then it goes up and where it becomes narrow, and then it becomes wide again. At the top of the hourglass, the upper half of the hourglass, whatever you require from the universe is being sent to you. So if it's a sales target, you would say, please send me whatever I need to meet my sales target, or whatever it is that you require. Okay, a new job, whatever it is. And then in the narrow part of the hourglass, where it becomes like this, you know, that narrow part is the high C. And the high C filters whatever is coming to you from the universe. So it's exactly what you need. And then that comes down through the bottom half of the hourglass onto you. Okay? It's a very beautiful symbol. Now, if you're doing the hourglass for yourself, then you keep the hourglass on the ground. Okay. So can we do this? Let's pick something that is that's relevant to you, that you would like to have in your life. It could be health, it could be career related, it could be relationship related, whatever it is. So let's just go ahead and do this exercise. Now it hardly takes 1 minute. All right. You're in your golden circle. Always start with your golden circle. Always start by taking the ribbon from the high C. Okay. Two simple things. Always start with your golden circle. Always start by working with the high C. Now imagine that there's an hourglass over you. The hourglass, the bottom of the hourglass is on the ground. And whatever you would like to ask for, please just ask for one thing at a time. Just ask the high C to send it to you through the top of the hourglass. And then feel that coming to you. Whatever it is that you require, just feel it coming to you through the hourglass. And that's all. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. That's all you need to do. Yeah. So that's all you need to do. Okay. Now, if you're doing the hourglass for yourself, you keep the hourglass on the ground. Okay. If you're doing, you can do the hourglass for somebody else, and that's called a floating hourglass. In that case, you just raise the height of the hourglass. This is all in your inner space, remember, above their heads. Okay. So keep it, a foot or two above their heads, and then you do the same thing. Whatever it is that you wish to come to them, that's for their highest good, you please do that. So suppose somebody's sick and you would pray for them to have good health. You could place the hourglass over them for good health and allow that, but it has to be above them. It's a floating hourglass. You can place the hourglass over regions of the world. So for example, if there's a place affected by, let's say, the recent volcanic explosion in Tonga, or if there's a place that is seeing violence, like say the Ukraine and Russia, or place that's seeing civil unrest, or whatever it is, you can place a floating hourglass over that part of the world. You can even do the same thing for your business, your school, your place of work, your place of worship, whatever it is, and provide what you would like to see. The high C will take care of it. You may ask for anything, but the high C will filter and make sure it's exactly what that person or place needs. It's a floating hourglass. So let's do this now. Let's imagine Ukraine, okay? It's a country in Central Asia on the western border of Russia. And so just place a floating hourglass over Ukraine. Now here, the hourglass has to be higher than the tallest mountain in Ukraine. You don't need to know what is the tallest mountain or the height of that mountain. Just visualize in your inner scene that the hourglass is huge. It's covering this country, a beautiful country. And let's say that we're bringing peace to Ukraine, okay? So ask the high sea to send peace to the country of Ukraine and all of its peoples. And that's all. That's it. Just a minute is all that you need. You can see a symbol of the hourglass here on the screen. This shows a floating hourglass. So in this particular situation, this would be if you were visualizing the hourglass above someone else. So not you. If you're doing the hourglass for yourself, then you can place the hourglass on the ground around you. So does that help? Yeah, does this help to understand better what is how we can use these symbols for ourselves? Now, someone coming back to the cutting ties work, someone was saying they do the maypole almost daily in the morning. If you're doing the maypole in the morning, that's fine. You only need to do the maypole once a day if you want. But if you see, if you can stay connected to the high sea during the whole day, wouldn't that be wonderful? And this is what we learned from Phyllis. We would watch Phyllis in her seminars, in her workshops, in her various activities, and we would see she would conduct these 10-hour-long workshops interacting with 200, 300 people. And at the end of the day, it would be 10 o'clock at night. We started at 8 a.m. We would be so tired, be like, oh, like this. But Phyllis would be as fresh as a flower. And that's because she was always connected to the high sea. So Veronica is saying she does the maypole almost daily, which is awesome. Congratulations, Veronica. But can you take it the next step and try to connect to the maypole, try to connect to the high sea, maybe intermittently during the day, maybe once an hour or once in 2 hours. When you take a break from your work, whether you're in the office or working from home, when you take a break, can you connect for just 30 seconds, right? You saw just now that the hourglass exercise hardly takes a minute. That's enough, as long as you do it with sincerity and with concentration. So can you connect to the maypole more frequently to stay connected to the high sea? Okay, that's the first step. Once you're connected to the maypole intermittently throughout the day, then the next step was to say, let me stay connected to the high sea all the time. Why? Because I want to learn to rely on the high sea for everything that I need. Whatever I require, let the high sea give it to me. Whatever strength, whatever intelligence, whatever knowledge, whatever it is, let the high sea provide that for me. And the high sea will, but you have to stay connected through the maypole. Yeah? That would be the second stage. We saw this with Phyllis. Someone would ask her something and she would say, I don't know, but the high sea knows. And then she would just connect. She wouldn't even close her eyes. She would just become quiet for a moment, and then the answer would come tumbling out. And that was wonderful to see. We learned so much just from watching Phyllis this way. Okay, Kimiko asked about job location. Each job location for each cut, or all of my past jobs as one symbol? No, you can't mix. It's not a salad where you put everything together. It's one place. But you do it only if it's bothering you, okay? So if you've lived in a prior place or had a prior job, and there's something about that prior location or prior job that is bothering you, only then do you need to cut ties. You don't need to cut ties from something that's not bothering you. We have enough karma to cut from. We don't need to add things unnecessarily. Abhishek is asking, can we practice figure 8 with spouse without cutting the ties? Exactly. Please don't cut ties from your spouse. Everybody wants to cut ties from the spouse. You cannot do that because you're both working towards self-realization together. Remember that Swami says that marriage In the Kali Yuga, Swami says that in the Kali Yuga, marriage is the royal road to God. On this topic, I'll be providing a workshop on how to be a great husband, 6 simple spiritual rules. Yeah, ladies, please pay attention. Guys too, how to be a great husband, 6 simple spiritual rules. And we'll talk about this, how to be a great husband, because many people don't know. Many people assume they just copy whatever their parents were doing, or they copy whatever is the cultural norms of their time, without really realizing that there's certain spiritual rules that can make your marriage into heaven, but you need to know what they are. And we're going to discuss that in this upcoming workshop. But for your spouse, just run the figure 8 for a few minutes each day. If you're not having problems with your spouse, you don't need to do so. But if there are times, then you can run the figure 8 where that is there. Now, Priyanka is mentioning that she has a situation where she gets angry for a very trivial issue. And she doesn't know why that happens, like this sudden anger. This is probably something that happens to a lot of people. There are different ways to handle this. You can look at this anger as if it's a habit, right? And then you can do a symbol cut from the habit of anger, and then cut ties from that. So that would be a symbol cut that you would have to do. You can also ask the high C you can also do the exercise we just now did, the hourglass, to help you with anger as well. So give me peace of mind, give me self-control, give me peace. That's what you can do. Now, GR is saying that they've been practicing the cosmic tree exercise for 6 months, and also call upon the cosmic parents each time when they're finding that the cosmic parents are vague, shadowy figures. That's what it's supposed to be, but you would like a more practical relationship with them. So what happens is when you try to do the cosmic parents exercise, it becomes, you're not supposed to see them. You can if you want. Many times I see Swami as my cosmic parents, but you want to avoid humanizing them, because what happens is you just project your own wants and your own personality onto the cosmic parents. And that's why Phyllis asked us not to see them as solid type figures. Just see them as vague type figures, and don't give too much physical details to them, because you're just going to project whatever is inside of you, you're just going to project that onto them. So be wary of that. Prahlad is saying, never did a final cut. Sorry, dude, no, you got to start all over again. Start again and go finish the cut properly. Do the work properly, please. Okay, don't waste time. Okay, now let's go to the last part of today's session. I hope this question and answers session was helpful. We covered about the maypole. We covered when to do it, when not to do it. We briefly exposed you to person cuts and symbol cuts. Please, please, please use the Phyllis Crystal workbook, the Cutting the Ties That Bind workbook. It's really great. You can get it from Amazon or whatever. And it's a really helpful way to understand what's happening. In India, I believe they have them at the Sai Towers bookstore, if that's still available. I'm not sure. But we can also get them through Devas Unlimited as well. So please get the workbook and use them. It's really a great way to understand the cutting ties work better. We also discussed the hourglass as a wonderful way. But now let's finish up what we had discussed last time, because we're not going to escape that. You see, why did you take birth? To realize the self. There's no other reason. That's why you're here, just to realize the self, just to be the self that you are. That self is always there. It never goes away. It's just that your awareness has become very limited like this. That's all. That's the only reason why you're not able to really see the self, because you believe that you're the body. As we mentioned last time, Swami had said that there are only 2 things that you need to do to realize the self. One is to control the mind. And the second is to think of God 24 hours a day. And if you do that, the mind will become silent. And through that silence, you will experience the self. Okay? And so we had done a number of symbols and techniques to help us experience that silence. I'm going to give you one that's pretty cool. Okay? Phyllis taught me this in 1996, I think. I was a student in medical school, and I was meditating very deeply at the time. And we had gone to India to party for the World Youth Conference from the United States. About 250 of us had come. Phyllis was our young adults advisor. And I met her in her room, and I said, Phyllis, I need some help with my meditation. I had a particular thing that was bothering me. And she gave me a simple technique, which I'll share with you now. It's called the blackboard technique. The blackboard technique, like the blackboard that we used to use in school, that we write on. And so in this blackboard technique, if you have a thought that is persistent, that keeps coming up, even for the person who asked about anger, then you can just, what you do is you just put that thought, see whatever it is that's bothering you is on the blackboard. And then you take an eraser and you just erase it away. Just rub it out. That's all. It's called the blackboard technique. If you have extraneous thoughts, if you have something that's bothering you, then just use this blackboard technique. So let's just practice this now. Okay. So let's be quiet. Visualize whatever it is that you may have been thinking about during the day. If something was bothering you, then just rub it out with the eraser. And that's all. See, it just takes a few moments to do that. Yeah, that's all that it does. It doesn't take very long. That's called the blackboard technique. Now, there's another way to use a figure 8 to help you with instant thoughts. Okay, let's say you have a song. Has anyone had this experience? I know I have. You hear a song, and then that song continues to play in your mind, whether you like it or not. And after some time, you're like, man, I wish this song would go away. And so you can use the figure 8 to do that. So what you do in this instant use of the figure 8 is you place that thought or song or whatever it is that is inside of you that's bothering you. Just place it in the other circle of the figure 8. You're in your own circle, and you just run the neon blue light for just a few moments. And you'll see that song or thought or thread, whatever it was that was bothering you, it could be anger, it could be lust, it could be greed, it could be some fear or something, whatever it is, just run it. Now for fear, there's the star for fear, but if there's something that is bothering you, just run it like this. And you'll see that mind will become, that thought will go away. Okay, so these are two techniques that you can use to help you to control the mind. First, the blackboard technique, just rub it out. And then second is the instant use of the figure 8. You're not cutting ties from anything. You're just using the figure 8 in that moment to free yourself from that particular thought or energy that's bothering you. The blackboard technique, Phyllis said, is also useful for people in the public light. So this could be people who are in prominent positions, people who are famous, people who have positions of power or authority. And what happens to them is people project whatever is in them onto that person. So let's say you love a particular music star, let's say BTS, okay? You're a fan of BTS or whoever it is. And what happens is you tend to project your desires or things you like or things you don't like onto BTS and the players of BTS. Now, if you're a member of a musician of BTS, what happens is you pick up subconsciously some of that energy that's being projected onto you. And that's not very healthy. In Indian culture, we call that drishti, okay? We call that drishti. There are certain techniques that are effective to control it, but you can also use the blackboard to get rid of those thoughts, those energies that other people have projected onto you. So you just imagine in your scene, can you all just picture a point in your life where you would have maybe spoken in public, either in person or online, yes? And so just picture that time and just feel that whatever thoughts people have sent to you or were images, energies they were sending to you, just erase it with the blackboard. Just erase it. And then it's gone. Yeah. and then it's gone. That's it. So this is a way for you to cut through the clutter of unnecessary emotions, unnecessary thoughts, and so forth. Now, Dimple was saying that Dimpy says she does a figure 8 with everything, unnecessary thoughts, situations, moments, emotions, places, and it's helped a lot. It really works. Yogi is asking, when you say place a song, whatever it is, do you place the singer in the other circle? No, nothing like that. Don't get too literal. Just in that moment, just put that song in the circle. It doesn't have to be, you're not going to visualize the song. It's just the song itself. My favorite movie of all time is Mary Poppins. And so sometimes I like to sing those songs. And sometimes those songs repeat in my mind. So I just place the song, whatever, supercalifragilistic, whatever it is, in the other circle. And then run the figure 8, and then it's gone. That's all. Yeah. And it really works. It really helps every time. Yeah. And that's all that you need to do. This is a way for you to keep your mind quiet, to keep your mind settled, to keep your mind at peace. So I hope that helps. Vina's asking, does it help every time? The blackboard? Yeah, the blackboard helps. See, the blackboard is for extraneous thoughts, or it's for the energy and thoughts that other people are projecting onto you if you're in a prominent public position. That's what the blackboard is for. Okay. All right. So can we end with a few simple things? Can we end with the star for fear? I know that many of you have done this, but I'd like to end with star for fear, and then also Nagendra, do we have the symbol for birds? Yeah, if we can do that. So let's go to the star for fear because that was mentioned. So when you have a fearful thought, when you're afraid, a common thing is that you're afraid that something will happen to someone you love. What you do is you use a star for fear. And you imagine that there is a star that's not a huge star, but just a star that's, let's say, above your head in front of you. And just bring it down before you as if it's on a pulley. Just bring it down. It could be maybe a few feet wide. And feel in your body where that fear is located. Maybe it's commonly in the pit of the stomach. For some people, it's in the pelvis. For some people, it's in the chest. Wherever you tend to feel fearful, just bring the star to that level, okay? Now, in that star, you're going to see the center of the star has a black area in the middle. And the outer part of the star is filled with this beautiful light, beautiful golden light. And the symbol is very easy to do. All you do is you breathe in a little bit and then exhale the fear into the center of the star. It goes into that black area. And then as you inhale the golden divine light from the periphery of the star. You can see the symbol that's shown on the screen here. Exhale again your fear. Let's do this now, all of us. Exhale the fear into the center part of the star, and then inhale divine light from the periphery of the star. And let's do this for just a few moments. Whatever fear that you have, whatever concerns that you have, just get rid of them through this star for fear. And when you're done, just in your inner scene, push the star back up and then open your eyes. That's all. Phyllis says this is a very powerful symbol, so she advises us not to do it for more than 2 minutes at a time, although you can do it whenever you feel fearful. I've had people who have anxiety disorder and other types of fear-based syndromes, and they've done this and it really, really helps them. So do the star for fear. I do it daily, actually. I do it every day. For whatever it is, anxiety, stress, strain that's bothering me. And whenever any fearful thought comes, then I do this as well. You can teach this to your children as well, because fear is something that they feel. Remember that although children, their intellectual abilities are not as developed, their emotional lives are very, very rich. And so please teach the star for fear to your kids as well. Now, what you'll see is that there are some symbols that you can do for others. The symbols that you can use for others, you can do the maypole, and at the end, you can send unconditional love from the high C to other people. That's one. You can do the floating hourglass to help other people. Yeah, that's another one. You can do the figure 8 with another person, even the instant type of figure 8. Let's say you're in a grocery store and somebody's bothering you, or some public place and someone is bothering you. You can do the figure 8 with them, and you'll see whatever difficulty you have goes away. Maybe it's an airport or train station, whatever it is, and that interaction will go away. So there's several symbols that you can do for somebody else or with someone else. So the triangle is also another symbol where you can do that with someone. But there are other symbols that are just for you, and the star for fear is one of them. And I would recommend that you do this. Amit is saying that his star is really energetic and is jumping, but you just need to calm down. You need to calm down. Someone is saying that she had an outburst of anger towards someone and felt terrible afterwards. How do they go back? So when you have these, these parts of you, anger and so forth, that you don't recognize or that you feel terrible about, go back to unconditional love. Go back to the unconditional love of the high C, because that is what is missing. Someone is saying, can you use the blackboard for other people? No, the blackboard is really for yourself, right? So I want you to understand some symbols you can use for other people: floating hourglass, using the maypole to send unconditional love. Those are fine for using. If you have children, you can put the beach ball on them to protect it. You can put the beach ball on your house, on your car, on your pets, on your kids who are less than puberty, not for people who are more older than puberty though. Yeah. Okay, and then the last symbol we're going to do today is the symbol of the birds, balancing the pairs of opposites. The pair of opposites is a wonderful symbol, and we do it because there are certain things we want in life, and there are many, many things we don't want in life. But what happens is when we keep reaching for those things we want, or when we try to push away the things we don't want, we end up falling. We lose our balance in our life and we fall. And this symbol of the pair of birds is a very beautiful way to help us to remain balanced no matter what is happening in our lives. So let's imagine that you're in, let's say it could be a circus tent or something. We're going to imagine that there's a tightrope, okay? There's a tightrope, and there's a ladder to climb up to the tightrope on either side. So in your inner scene, I'd like you to imagine yourself climbing up to the tightrope on the ladder. Once you, don't worry if it's too scary or whatever, just you reach it very comfortably. At the top is a platform, and then you're going to step onto the tightrope. You're going to place your hands on either side of you, but your hands can be placed with your palms facing up. So extend your hands, keep your elbows straight, and your palms are facing up as if you're trying to balance, okay? And what happens is, as you're crossing this tightrope, it's not very difficult to cross, but as you're crossing the tightrope, you see a beautiful white bird on your right side. And this beautiful white bird represents all the things in your life that you would like to have. It could be wealth, it could be beauty, it could be health, it could be any of these things, okay? And if you were to reach towards that white bird or ask it to land on your hand or your arm, then you would immediately fall because you would lose balance, okay? On your left-hand side, you're going to see flying around. It's not on you, it's just flying nearby you, both the white bird and there's going to be a black bird on your left-hand side. So white bird is on your right, black bird is on the left. And this black bird represents all the things that you don't want in your life, okay? It could be pain, suffering, disease, whatever it is, relationships. It's all the things that we don't want, that we're scared about. And if this black bird lands on you, lands on your arm or hand, then you're going to lose balance and fall. Or if you try to move away from the blackbird, you're again going to lose balance and fall, okay? And so what we do in this pair of opposites or balancing symbol is we simply walk down the tightrope, knowing that neither the white bird nor the black bird can affect us. The things we want and the things we don't want, we're not at all concerned. We're just concerned about walking down the tightrope happily and peacefully. So let's go ahead and do this exercise now. So you've climbed up to the top of the ladder. You place your hands. You can see on the screen what's here. Please focus on the picture, not on your questions. Focus on the picture and just walk one step in front of the other. You see a white bird on your right-hand side, a black bird on your left-hand side. If you reach out to the white bird, you're going to fall. If you reach out to the black bird or try to pull away from the black bird, you're going to fall. Do neither. Just ignore them and focus instead on walking on the tightrope. And then when you get to the other side, there's a little platform there. Congratulations. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to do it again. You're going to go back to where you came from. So cross the tightrope a second time. The black bird and the white bird are again on your right and left sides respectively. You just ignore them. Reach the same platform that you started from. When you're finished, you can climb down the ladder and come back to the ground. So I'd like to end with this exercise because this ties back into what we had started to discuss last month, sorry. See, you are the self. You are God. You are God, not God as in with 4 arms or Jesus Christ and all that. And when I say you, not you, the body, not you, the mind, not you, the personality or the ego, that's all a temporary garment you've put on. The true you, that highest part of you, that is God. You are God having a dream experience in a dream body, in a dream creation. That's all. You're just dreaming. But what happens to students who follow certain paths is they start to think that the blackbird, the things that represent the blackbird, like disease, suffering, good or bad memories in the past, they don't exist. They're not from me. They're all illusion, right? But actually, that's not correct. You see, in true Advaita, you recognize that everything is God, whether it's good or bad, everything is God. Yes, you have to use discrimination, right? You know that the stove is good for cooking, but you don't put your hand on the hot stove. Use discrimination to distinguish medicine from poison, for example. That's discrimination. But from the perspective of the self, everything is God. And when you look at your past memories, when you look at your past experiences, instead of trying to push those things away, remember what we've learned from this lesson of balancing the pairs of opposites, is that neither the things we want or the things that we don't want, neither of them are essential. Just keep moving down that tightrope. Just get to the end. And that's where you'll find the self. Don't get distracted by saying, I don't want this. I do want this. That thing that happened to me in the past is illusion. It's not real. Everything is the self. Everything is God. Don't get distracted by what you see around you. Be asleep to the world and awake to the self. That's all that you have to do. Okay. Thank you all for a lovely session. I hope that you learned a lot. I saw a lot of comments, so I'm glad that we could interact in this way. We'll be back again next month. I'll also go through these comments that you've put into the chat box, and we'll review the outstanding ones that need to be addressed in the next session. In the meantime, your homework is to do this, the symbols that we've done, all of the symbols that we've done today. We went over the figure 8, we went over the maypole, of course, we did the star for fear, we did the pair of opposites, we did the hourglass. Use these symbols every day. Get more experience with them, understand them. If you've not finished your cuts with your parents, please cut ties and with planets. Hurry up, no? Don't waste time. Get things done. And then from there, you can go on to other cuts. If you've already done those cuts, congratulations, but keep doing the cuts so that you're finally free. Next month, I want you to come back and tell me how well you understood the pair of opposites. How well have you understood the pair of opposites using the bird symbol? Okay, that's the homework. Do it deeply, don't do it superficially. Your homework is to do the pair of opposites, the symbol of the birds. Understand that both the things we want and the things we don't want, neither are important. Focus on the self. Be asleep to the world and awake to the self. Sairam. Nagendra, back to you.
I thank everyone for being such amazing participants during the meetup. It's so wonderful to see everyone committed to working on yourselves using such powerful tools from cutting the ties that bind method practices. As you continue to free yourself from all that no longer serve your highest good and increasingly rely on the high sea, the source of all love, wisdom, and peace within yourself, you will see that in truth you are the verily the source of divinity and eternal bliss in this creation. So please keep practicing the methods shared with everyone today. You may continue to interact with us through the WhatsApp group and the CTTB India email and view all our videos through our CTTB YouTube channel. And we have a pleasant news for all of you. We will be starting Cutting the Ties That Bind foundation course in March month, and we will be announcing the dates very soon. We wish you all the best. It's always a pleasure to support you in your journey. Let's end the session with Shanti Mantra. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sairam.